For those of us that remember life before the internet, all we had was newspapers and magazines and books and encyclopedias. And typically, those sources did not mention child-free.
Hashtags like child-free by choice and not having kids have gotten popular on the TikTok over the past year. So do you think this helps combat this stigma around being child-free by choice?
I think it helps. I think it gets the conversation started, which is really important.
Yes, absolutely. I love this so much, especially as someone who is child-free by choice. You know, it does feel like it's a decision that you have to defend all of the time.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've never really wanted to be a mom. That's strange. How could you not want to be a mom?
And it's like the default is you have kids, and if you don't, there's a lot of shame and stigma. So the more people, the more women who stand up and say, no, every choice is valid. I'm allowed to make this choice, and that should be celebrated just as much as celebrating women who do have kids.
It's a choice. Parents don't defend their choice to have kids. We shouldn't have to defend our choice to not have children. Being able to use social media to talk about the child-free choice, I think it's getting attention.
It's great that people are just out there being proud about it.
You go!
Exactly.
I'm a supporter. I'm an ally.
You're an ally.
I'm an ally. I do have 2 children. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. I've written about this a lot, about the overly effusive attention that mothers get in our world and on social media. The Instagram algorithm loves mothers. They love pregnant bellies.
That is so true. The world seems very obsessed with pregnancy and babies. And I know that there was a time when YouTube channels were just taking off like crazy. If you had a channel about being pregnant and having a baby and people doing videos of live births and everything, I don't know. That's so over the top for me, but I guess to each their own. I guess we're just boring compared to that.
Too many of the stories that have always been told have ended with marriage and babies for women. I mean, almost every sitcom ever ends with marriage and babies. Yep. Everyone on Friends got married and had a baby at the end of it.
I made a whole video about this. I'm where are the child-free people in movies and TV shows? I mean, there's a few of them, and you guys were awesome. You guys sent me a list of a few of them that you knew, because I'm not much of a TV watcher. But by the far majority, a woman is seen as being super fulfilled if she gets married and then she's pregnant, and then that's sort of the happy ending. And let's be honest, there's a lot of happy endings that don't include either of those things.
Now that we're finally seeing narratives of another way for a woman to live in the world, it's incredible.
Yeah.
It's so refreshing.
I think younger women need to see that too, right? That's not the only way to be. So if you're 20 and seeing these TikTok videos, then you feel like you have more options out there, and so if you see other women doing it and feeling good about it, then, it opens a world to you.
And maybe a lot of these kids have never even realized that they have an option. So being able to use social media platforms and talk about the fact that, hey, yes, there's an option besides being a parent, which was the only narrative that most of us probably heard growing up, is incredibly refreshing.
I'm child-free by choice as well, but it's not like my partner and I are sitting around the dining room table every night, high-fiving, being child-free by choice. We don't really celebrate it, and here's why, because I'm not too sure I've entirely felt the stigma of it as you.
Wow. That is interesting. When people don't feel the stigma of the child-free life, I'm always amazed. When some of you have sent me messages and you're no one has ever said anything negative to me about the fact I did not want to have kids. And I'm you're either surrounded by people who are very open-minded, or I don't know, maybe you never talk to anyone about your choice. But I guess maybe because I tend to talk about it very openly and I have a channel about it, people unload on me a lot when I make that choice. And so I probably get a lot more comments than the average person, which whatever, I'm fine with.
I can't remember the last time where I felt sort of confronted with someone saying that, you're going to regret it. Yeah. And the few occasions where someone has sort of suggested, you should have kids, it's going to change your life. I'm always just flattered that they think I'm that young. You know what I mean? But
Oh, that's true. I guess as you start to age, you are a little more flattered when people think you're young. It is funny how that works. When you're older and people think you're younger, you're yes. And then when you're younger, you always want to be older because there tend to be more privileges that come along with being older.
No, I think I agree with you, Jess. I think 15 years ago, I'm also child-free by choice. And 15 years ago, I did get those questions you're going to change your mind, or why won't you change your mind, or whatever. I agree with everything that's been said. I certainly understand that.
I like her boots. They're super cute. Okay. moving on. That was just distracting for a moment and I had to say it.
It's so irritating that in stories that we tell, women only have one choice and one path. I just don't know that it has to be a movement. I don't know that we have to be out there like crusading on like there are other movements and this is a movement. And
interesting. I guess I don't really think about it as a movement. I did get this question a couple of weeks ago. Someone said, like, do you feel like you're part of a movement? My choice has just been to be child-free, and I started a YouTube channel where I talk about it, and I talk about it on Instagram. I don't think about it as a movement. I just think this is my lifestyle choice, and I'm going to share it with people because I didn't have anyone to tell me that this was an option when I was young. And for people who are making that choice, I want to be a support system for them. I want to have a community where they feel that they're accepted and that they're understood and they can talk about child-free stuff. And I love having you guys as part of this community.
the reason why is because people who are child-free by choice are pretty happy. It's a momentary, for me, in my experience, it's a momentary irritation when some idiot is like, you're gonna change your mind. And the moment passes, and then I'm back to my awesome child-free life. You know, like, I'm not being held back from opportunities that require a movement for me to go out on social media with these hashtags. Like, you know, I'm not being denied entry into rooms because of this choice.
Okay, I can see what she's saying. I think that's why I said I approach this more like I want to build a community of people, a group of people that just gets it.
Where I do want to apply more sensitivity, though, are people who are child-free not by choice. I think that that is a real pain and a real trauma. And I know people who have been through that situation, are going through that situation. And those questions aren't a momentary irritation. When somebody says, why don't you have kids? They don't get to go home and high five somebody and be like, child-free by choice. They go home realizing that there's a real loss in their life.
That's very true. That's why those comments are so insensitive and people shouldn't say them to anybody because someone might be saying, oh, I'm child-free by choice, but they may not actually be child-free by choice. And maybe they're just saying that because they don't feel comfortable being like, hey, I'm having struggles getting pregnant or having a baby. And at the end of the day, it's just not people's business. And words can affect someone so negatively if you're already in a place where you're struggling in life with this topic.
And so I think that if there's a movement that we need to have, I prefer that the movement and the placards and the hashtags be on their behalf rather than on behalf of someone like me, because again, I'm okay.
I think it's good to support each other, but I also think that we as a child-free community do need to speak out about the fact that there's a choice to be had. There are a lot of people and a lot of cultures where it's not seen as a choice, where it's just the default, women have to do this thing. And if we're not speaking out about it, I think that's just going to be lost, like how it's been lost in past generations where people are having kids because they think they have to and because of the pressure, not because they actually want to do the thing. There needs to be community for everyone that is in this place that is trying to figure out and navigate through a child-free life. And that includes when people change their minds, because it definitely does happen.